But I feel like I'm the kind of person where if people around me are happy, then I'm very happy. And so that's always been kind of a priority for me, you know? So yeah.
Welcome to Crypto Interviews. My name is Claudio and this is Cryptotion, the channel that brings you crypto news, reviews, tutorials, and interviews with a focus on the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems. And joining me today is Kenny, who's a special dev. He doesn't want to say exactly what he is, working for Manta Network and Calamari. We're all looking forward to getting those KMA tokens. When KMA? So Kenny, if you want to please introduce yourself to the people that don't know who you are. And maybe just kind of give us a bit of background about yourself. How did you even start in crypto to begin with? And then how did you get into the Polkadot ecosystem? What attracted you to it?
Yeah, so thanks for having me here. You know, I think definitely, you know, one of the most knowledgeable channels on YouTube about Polkadot. So glad to be able to spend time with you, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
About myself, I guess I've always, I guess I started in the crypto space back in around 2013 as like a hobbyist, just like mining. And it was because, you know, I was doing this cloud computing company at the time. And for those of you who are familiar with cloud computing, right, there's a lot of servers involved. And so whether or not those servers sit idle, they still cost money. And so, you know, we were trying to figure out ways to kind of, what do you call it, kind of offset the costs. And so Bitcoin mining became, you know, the solution. So that's what we kind of did back then. And that kind of led me down the path of, you know, thinking about Bitcoin at the time because it wasn't as liquid as it is today, right? And so, you know, did a few other projects in the crypto space around Bitcoin liquidity. And worked on that. And then around like the 2016, I think it was like early 2017 when the bull market started going, the latest one. I started getting a lot of questions about crypto and Bitcoin and, you know, ICOs, which was the rage back in 2017. So I decided, you know, instead of answering everyone's questions, because they're all the same questions, you know, why not start like blogging about it or something? And so I started writing about the space and writing about how things work and, you know, how blockchain actually works and all that stuff. And then around 2018, right, as the activities died down and the bull market started waning, I went to go pursue my MBA, and that's where I actually met the rest of the team. So I went to MIT for my MBA, and that's where I met one of my co-founders, Victor. He was studying, doing his master's in economics at Harvard at the time. Wow. And then my other co-founder, Shumo, he was working at Algorand as a research scientist at the time. And so together, you know, like we've always kind of felt like this whole on-chain transactions are lacking a lot of privacy, and it makes us like, you know, whenever we send money or crypto to someone, right, like we kind of funnel it through a centralized exchange for like that sort of like identity obfuscation, so they don't check our wallet addresses. And then we did some research. We talked to about like, we did this survey of around like 400 respondents, all in the crypto space, and it turns out that everyone's having the same problem. Everyone's like, oh, you know, like I don't know how to hide my transactions. And so sometimes I don't even make transactions. I avoid making transactions because I don't want things linked to me. And so we started identifying privacy as a really huge problem. But the problem kind of became even more complex because, you know, with something like the Polkadot ecosystem, it's very new, but with Ethereum, you know, there are already applications out there and ecosystems out there, and none of it is, you know, privacy preserving. And so we wanted to build on a platform that allows us to enable privacy since day one, right? And that's exactly why we chose like Polkadot, because, you know, not only does it mean that we're in a new space or a new ecosystem where we can like bring privacy immediately, but also because, you know, the interoperability allows us to really like take advantage of the value proposition of not just like transacting with Manta tokens privately, but being able to transact with any crypto asset privately. And so, yeah, that's basically it.
Wow, interesting. And how do you find developing on Polkadot on Substrate or using Rust? Because I mean, I have a friend he's not a blockchain developer, he's a software engineer, but he's been doing some stuff with Substrate, playing around. He's obviously using Rust for that, and he said it's just super complex. to do any kind of development on Substrate, on the framework? Like how do you guys manage that? Like how?
Yeah, so I think definitely Polkadot is very different than other ecosystems, not just in the sense that it's Substrate, which, we focus on hiring like Rust engineers, but also because, sorry, let me turn off some of the things going on in the background, but also because it's just a new ecosystem overall, which means that, Polkadot itself is building and developing and changing just as quickly as all the projects that are building on top of it, right? And so they're the Polkadot team, the Parity team, right? Like they're very aggressive about pushing out new code and adding in new features. And it's really impressive the speed at which they're developing. And the other projects, the rest of us, we're trying to keep up. So we have two challenges, right? Like one is we have to find the right talent, which right now, like in the Polka House chat, you can see it. People are joking about like, hey, are you guys Rust engineers? We want to hire you, right? Because like the talent is so sparse right now. And then two is that, we're not just hiring engineers. You have to really think about what kind of engineer you hire, even with like a Rust developer, right? Like you need a really hacker style Rust developer. And what we mean by this is like, there's the kind of developer who, has a tradition, has an understanding of exactly how things work. And, they want it to work that way. And then there's the developer who like kind of knows what's going on, but like, they might be learning on the fly themselves and like they're able to adapt very quickly. And that's the hacker style that we're looking for. And I think like the hacker style of Rust developers will definitely thrive in the Polkadot ecosystem.
Wow. Why do you say that? Just because of the constant changes?
Constant changes. And, it is unique in the sense that, no one has ever deployed on Polkadot before, right? Like, yeah, we've done test nets, we've done Kusama, right? But like no one has deployed on Polkadot yet. The first deployment on Polkadot is going to happen after this first Parachain auction, right? So it's pretty exciting to see, but at the same time, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so like things break. Things may work one day and then not work the next day because of certain like upgrades and code changes. And so, like you definitely need someone who's willing to be able to adapt, absorb those changes, and be able to flourish with those changes. And so that's why I think the hacker mentality is definitely the kind of mentality that thrives in the Polkadot ecosystem. At least right now.
Somebody did deploy statement.
Oh yeah. Sorry, like more so community focused projects.
No, just kidding. So yeah, if you want to please talk. Let's start with Calamari because we want to start with the bottom part, right? With the first part, we should say, because we could say Calamari is the first, Manta is the second, right? So right now, I know that you already won the Parachain auction on Calamari. We all love it, right? I've been speaking about it on this channel. Thank each and every one of you who contributed using my referral link, by the way. That's greatly appreciated. And I mean, where are we at the moment? I know that governance is enabled. I know that we need to wait for token transfers. There are some stuff in the background that you're working on at the moment. You've got some pending actions. And then, I mean, do you realistically see token transfers, for example, happen this week, or would you say more like next week or maybe 2 weeks time from now? Could there be some impediment as well?
No impediments. So I know that originally we had announced that, we were going to be releasing between the 8th to the 15th, right? And so after we started having conversations with some of our partners in the ecosystem, and I guess partners, namely exchanges, right? We realized that, the process is going to take a little bit longer than we originally anticipated. And, these types of exchanges, right? They want, exclusivity. They want to be the first ones to, launch with the token as well. Wow. And so there's certain kind of like gives and takes that we've been, moving back and forth on. And as a result, right, that pushed back our token release timeline. But right at the same time, we're active in the community. We're chatting with people, and people are just like, come on, you got to set a date. You can't keep like pushing it back. And so right now we've set a firm deadline. We are doing the runtime upgrade for token transfer on the 23rd. And then on the 25th, or on or before the 25th, we will be releasing the first tranche of Calamari rewards. And so it will be this month. And we are still aggressively trying to bring on more exchanges so that we can maximize the liquidity for the community. And, some of the exchanges want to do some events as well. And we'll have some more details about it as it comes out. But some of these are pretty large volume exchanges. So, we're pretty excited about the progress we've been making on that front.
Perfect. I do have to ask though, I know there were some issues with Kraken because of the situation with privacy, etc. They couldn't basically allow their customers or the users to participate in the Calamari Crowdloan on there. I mean, do you know if that's going to be resolved in some way with them? I know that, I mean, from a token listing perspective, I know that you can't really say because of NDA and stuff, but have you had talks to them or anything? Or
I mean, we're pretty close with the Kraken team on, various sides, right? Like, the listing process, we're not exactly sure how it works. I don't think anyone knows how it works. We're not really that privy to the decision making on the, which parachains auctions they decide to support. But like we do have a really good relationship with them. I think after we won the Calamari auction, we did an interview with the podcasting team.
Brian, no?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I wish I had more details for you, but honestly, the truth is that I don't know.
Fingers crossed. Cool. And what about what's the next step? I mean, so you said that we're looking at the 25th probably, right? But you also said that you're also planning to launch a specific platform, or not platform, we should say, one of the dApps. I think, is it MariSwap that you plan to launch, or MariPay? Which one?
MariPay.
MariPay.
Yep.
Okay.
And
so the wallet.
Yeah, so that's the well, it's not a wallet. It's actually a private transaction service. And so we're launching MariPay to the community through our testnet, which we've codenamed Dolphin, because we love aquatic creatures. But so Dolphin testnet is releasing in two phases. The first phase of Dolphin testnet will be with burner addresses, and what that means is that you get one specific address. You can deposit private tokens into it, and you can transact private tokens to other people as well. And as soon as these are one-time use addresses, so they're burner style. But then version 2 of Dolphin testnet will introduce permanent addresses. So you'll have an address that is connected with your wallet, and that'll be your, I guess, private identity on chain. And so, I think like with the testnet, we will be opening up faucets because, it's a testnet. And so people need to be able to get their tokens in order to privatize. But it's really exciting, right? Because it's not just a wallet, right? People are starting to actually transact privately, and they're going to be able to see like how this actually would function in the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems. Awesome. But yeah, we are releasing it this month. Yeah.
What about the MariSwap one? Is MariSwap a DEX then in the end?
Yes, MariSwap is an AMM style decentralized exchange. So it's not order book, it's just, pools. And we are launching that in Q1 of 2020. And so that one is, it's the value proposition there is that there is a layer of privacy so that you can obfuscate the identity of the person transacting and swapping. So yeah, that's MariSwap. More information about that will come out in Q1.
No, I do have to ask, for example, I know that they're supposed to be private, but let's say, for example, from your point of view as the user, the person transacting, can you see your transaction somewhere? I mean, is it stored somewhere within MariSwap?
You can see your own transaction, yes. And you will have a full audit trail of your own activity on Manta Network or Calamari Network, right? But this is a self-auditing capability. So this means that only you will be able to see your transactions, right? So like, even if someone held me at gunpoint and said like, I want to see this guy's transactions, I wouldn't be able to, right? That's the beauty of, decentralization here. No one has any authority over anyone else.
You have access to their private keys, basically, to their passphrase. Okay. Makes sense. Thank you. And what about the next point that I want to talk about is in relation to the tokenomics. So we know we had that discussion a while back with the a big fuss, but thank you for organizing that audio conversation on your group, to confirm to people that we are no longer going to have the IDO that you're planning to hold on SushiSwap. But what is the plan? I mean, in terms of tokenomics, what sort of tokens do you see released into the market eventually, like the marketing fund tokens, for example? Let's start with those. I mean, when do you estimate that those are going to go into circulation?
Yeah, it's really hard to estimate right now, and really depends on some of the activities that we'll be doing. And what this implies is, when you're thinking about the initial circulation, especially for Calamari, it's pretty simple because there's no investor tokens, there's no team tokens, right? It's just the crowd loan and the crowd loan rewards. And then on the marketing budget side, right? Like originally, as you had mentioned, we were thinking about doing it with the IDO. The community said no, so we said no. And so, as part of that, we are thinking about ways of also rewarding the community, right? Like, for example, the test net for MariPay, how we can think about incentivizing that, how we can think about like rewarding a lot of our early supporters. And so things like airdrops, but exact dates for that, right? Like it's not really known. We're still trying to figure that out ourselves. But yeah, I mean, and then like maybe some activities with exchanges as well, just to expand the user base, because I think the goal of the marketing budget is twofold. And the first priority is definitely to expand the community, right? Because like the more that people know about what we're doing, the more that people understand like our value proposition, the more, I guess, the bigger, the more valuable the project becomes, right? And this is not just for Manta Mari, but also for, the entire Polkadot ecosystem, right? Like when you hit exchanges and you can do these types of activities with exchanges, then that exchange's user base now knows about Manta Mari and Polkadot and all that stuff, right? So like we definitely want to expand on that end. And then two is that, we want to use our marketing budget to also reinforce and, reward the existing community. Because, these are the people that have been with us, who know us, who believe in us. And, I think like
yours truly.
Thank you so much. And so definitely, right. Like we want to keep that momentum going, because you guys are our like, greatest ambassadors essentially.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's great. Great to hear. Thank you. And let's talk a bit about Manta now. Let's switch over from Calamari. What is the main reason? Because this was always on my mind ever since I saw the tokenomics, is what's the reason behind having less total supply for Manta than you have for Calamari? Because normally, if you look at the other crowd loans, they're always much larger on the Polkadot version over their Canary version. So what made you go with this decision?
It was kind of a funny one, right? Like we definitely wanted it to be, I guess, very apparently community focused. And so what we did was that we just like looked at a bunch of different community focused projects and like what their strategies and what their sort of token supplies are and stuff. And, we noticed that it's a lot larger than what we currently have for Manta Network. And so we're like, okay, let's just, do what they're doing. I think at the end of the day, right, like it doesn't really matter that much because it's so divisible all the way down to like, a fraction of a fraction. But, I think just looking at some of the other community projects, we decided that, we should have a larger token supply on the Kusama side.
Wow, interesting. And what about the investors and of course unlocks vested? How will it work on Manta? Because obviously it's different. We're not going to expect the same freedom, so to speak, as we've seen with Calamari. It's not gonna be so much for the community, but there's also going to be the investor side, because at the end of the day, the devs need to eat. I mean, people need to understand that you can't expect everything to be free, right? Somebody needs to have invested for a project to flourish, right? So how are the vested tokens? How do they work from that point of view?
Yeah, so the vesting for the investors, I believe, it's been so long since I've looked, but I believe it's a 2-year vesting schedule. Okay. And depending on which round that they invested in, the unlocks begin at different times. But like we definitely have this all laid out in our documentation. So yeah, you can definitely take a look at the tokenomics. I wish I could give you the exact numbers right now, but it's just been so long since I've looked.
Okay, no problem. And yeah, so that's good. It's great to see that. And with regards to the actual platforms itself, so we've got MariPay and MariSwap on Calamari, but what are they going to be called on Manta Network?
Manta Pay and Manta Swap.
Okay, so very simple, very simple. And do you have plans for other sort of platforms to launch on Manta as opposed to on Calamari, for example? Do you have something specific for Manta that you're not going to have on Calamari?
Not at this point. You know, what's really unique about the focus on such a large community in Calamari is that and this is going to happen with the same on Manta Network. You know, once on-chain governance releases and proposals and new features are deployed, then I think we're probably going to see a divergence in how the projects are going to be developing. And as more projects come onto Kusama and are exclusive to Kusama and vice versa for Polkadot, right? Like the features, the requirements, and the requests are going to be slightly different. So like, I can't really say for sure exactly how they're going to diverge right now. They're very similar. They're basically the same, except, you know, different logos and different names. But, you know, 2 to 3 years from now, I think the Kusama and Polkadot ecosystems are going to look pretty different. And so it's going to be pretty interesting to see how Calamari and Manta develop in respect to that. In terms of future products, right? Like I think one of our, well, I guess 2 of our main goals. One is one of the things we really stress is like privacy as a utility, right? Like turning on the water, turning on the faucet, water's there, opening your laptop, internet's there. And so for Polkadot, we want it to be, you know, you use Polkadot and privacy is there. And so what does that imply? It implies that, you know, we have MariPay and MariSwap, but like MariPay 2.0, the private transaction shouldn't have to happen on MariPay, shouldn't have to happen on MantaPay. Ideally, it would happen directly on wallets. Ideally, it would happen directly on the application that you're using that is part of the, you know, Polkadot ecosystem, right? And so people can privatize without even having to know that Manta Network's the one doing it for them or Calamari's the one doing it for them.
So
right?
a secret integration or silent integration.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's just like it's a utility now, right? People don't have to care where the privacy is coming from. It's fully decentralized privacy, and people can just use it whenever they want. And so that's one of the goals of how we want to mature MantaPay and MariPay. The other thing is that, you know, this is still a very heavy research focused side because we haven't come up with any concrete plan yet. But, you know, we have been making a lot of progress in the development of Turing completeness using zero knowledge proofs. So being able to build out like that sort of smart contract layer with that added privacy as a utility layer underneath. So, you know, being able to allow people to build directly on the ecosystem is definitely in our roadmap as well.
Awesome. Awesome to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Now to take a step back and go back to Calamari. So what is your plan if we get to the end of the lease and then you don't happen to win the next parachain auction because you're going to be, I don't know, competing with some other guys who happen to be to receive more contributions than you guys? What is the plan if you will remain a parathread for, say, I don't know, let's say maybe 1 month, maybe 2 months? How would that impact the products, MariPay and MariSwap?
Yeah, so I think at the time, right, like sorry, I've got a little burp going on, but
no, don't worry. So basically, you're going to be downgrading pretty much, right, to a parathread, and you're not going to be producing the same number of blocks, if I understand this correctly, unless you pay more for that because it is a pay-as-you-go model, right?
Right. So the pay-as-you-go model, I think, is the biggest differentiator here. But I think ideally, right, like having if the scenario occurs that we are a parathread for some period of time, right, I don't think it's a really big deal breaker for us. I think as long as like our focus isn't necessarily, our priority isn't necessarily to distinguish ourselves between a parachain and a parathread, more so than it is to integrate with as many projects in the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems as possible, right? Because like the more projects we can integrate with through XCM, the more value we bring to the entire ecosystem because our whole value proposition is privacy and privacy as utility. Yeah. And so if we have to be a parathread and the economics change a little bit for the time being, then, you know, I think that's something that we're I guess okay with if the situation happens. But like as you see right now with like the parachain auctions and the it's a lot different now on Kusama than it was for the first two, right? Like the first two were pretty darn expensive. And now,
and now it's so quiet. Now it's so quiet. It's gone down so much. It's like,
yeah,
you could see all the whales have locked up their KSM. So we need to wait for them to get the unlocks.
Yeah. So hopefully, like in the future, it would be more economically viable. And so, we're pretty confident that if we're able to deliver on the value proposition that we've set forth, then, we have a good chance, because our value proposition is pretty unique, right? We're playing in the privacy space, on-chain privacy for Polkadot, which isn't really something that we're seeing other players do.
Yeah, no, that's great. And what about the collators? I know that you've tweeted a while back that you had the first collator running on Calamari. So now the question comes, will staking be enabled? And are you able to share any information on that so far? Or is that something that you're thinking or planning to do? Or
we are definitely planning to do it. I think, one of the things, one of the things that we have right now is, you've seen us, we've been stretched so thin on like 5 different things simultaneously. And so we haven't really had a chance to build out the right incentives for the collator programs, but it's definitely something on our roadmap. And I think as soon as we launch the testnet on Calamari, then the next focus will be, the program itself. And so we're definitely going to be releasing some information later this quarter. So stay tuned for that.
Perfect. Thank you for that. No, and people love staking on this channel. So yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thank you for that. Is there anything else you'd like to share that's exciting for the community and people should look forward to for either Calamari or Manta Network?
Yeah. So, something just, or a couple of things. One is, we have community calls every single Wednesday on our Telegram channel. And so, whenever you guys have any questions, concerns, thoughts, right? Like just jump into our community channel Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. They used to be 10 a.m. Eastern. But, there you can just talk. We don't do any sort of filtering or anything, right? Like usually it's about like 100, 150 people in those community chats. So definitely welcome everyone to come join those every single Wednesday. And then 2 is that today is Manta Network's birthday. It's 1 year old now. So thank you very much.
Where's the cake? Where's the cake?
I don't know. It's
hiding under the orange pillow.
I wish. No, there's still a long way to go. So we can't pause to celebrate right now, but I hope we can pretty soon.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that, Kenny. And there is one final question that I need to ask you. I was meant to ask because I had Alex from Subsocial on yesterday as well, and I was meant to ask him that and I completely forgot. So I'm going to ask you. I ask every interviewer on my channel this question again. What is one thing in life that you truly desire?
Yeah, I've actually been asked this, kind of asked this question a lot lately, but I feel like I'm the kind of person where if people around me are happy, then I'm very happy. And so that's always been kind of a priority for me, so yeah, that's what I want. I just want people to be happy.
So you become happy when you feel positive energy around you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And guys, if you want to check out Manta Network or Calamari, the links can be found in the description of this video. And also, if you want to contribute to the Manta Network Crowdloan, there's also a referral bonus scheme also in the description of this video if you want to check them out. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Kenny, for joining. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.